Good evening, radio fans, and welcome to Davey Mac's Tales from the Satellite. I'm your host, Bobby Tamburo, and joining me, kind of obviously, is Davey Mac. And what this show is basically me and Dave sit back and Dave breaks down stories from the Ron and Fez satellite era.
That's right, Robert. Thank you so much. So I'm excited to be doing this, and thank you for the introduction. You're scaring me because of all of the wires and machinery and things like that. I want to know, none of this equipment is going to be electrocuting me in my apartment, by the way, right?
I genuinely don't think so. Okay. And hopefully by the next episode, we can have some of the wires cleaned up in a better looking shoot.
No. I'm not criticizing the wires. I'm criticizing that your weird vibe right now at the beginning of the show is scaring me. But I understand what you're doing. You're doing honestly, professional. It's Davey Mac's Tales from the Satellite, and Robert and Jared Fishman and Ron and Fez Archivist have all done an incredible job producing the show. But of course, Robert is producing and hosting.
In that particular order.
Yeah, and Robert's hosting it. And it's not just the Ron and Fez era. I promise that we're going to do all 9, almost 10 years I was at Sirius XM Satellite Radio between Ron and Fez, Opie and Anthony, special delivery starring Sam and Dave, where I hosted a really kick-ass, pretty successful show for 3 years with Sam Roberts, and then transitioned that to the Davey Mac Sports Program XL, where me, Chris Pepper Stanley, and or Roy Harder would do the sports show, the legendary sports show, which, by the way, we're still doing, kicking ass. Actually just got a brand new live studio at the Dojo of Comedy in Morris Plains, New Jersey.
Hell yeah, who produces that?
Robert Tamburo.
Hell yeah, it's incestual.
He's on fire, and we just released that. So if you're into, the Davey Mac Sports Program has been back for a year. We've been really, really kicking ass and proud of it. But this brand new spot at the Dojo of Comedy is going to be awesome, and in a few months, maybe even some live audiences, we don't know. But regardless, this is all about the satellite era, the Sirius XM satellite era of the Dave Man. And I'm allowed to, no, you know what it was, Robert? I'm into a lot of these wrestling podcasts, and I'm into something to, what's the name of the show? Looking for Richard? Looking for Richard is a Shakespeare documentary directed by Al Pacino.
I was going to say Searching for Dick is a porno I've seen, so.
The name of the show is Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. Not Looking for Richard. I don't know how I got that mixed up. Regardless, I like the show because it's sort of a look back on his entire career. Hosted by a guy who simply asks Bruce Pritchard, his time in the WWE for about 25 years behind the scenes as a main, producer type guy.
Mind behind
kind
the
of
operation,
a similar person to the Dave Man in terms of radio. He's wrestling, I'm radio, but a similar type of, behind the scenes creative in front of the camera as well, obviously.
Absolutely. You kind of did it all. You were the what do they call it? Swiss Army knife of satellite radio.
The Dave haters never understood that I literally did everything. So it's always interesting when they're like, but he does things to his body like, please shut up.
Yeah, it's called Blood, Sweat, and Tears for the Goal.
It's
an honor for me to be here with you.
Thank you.
Because honestly, I looked at you as probably the best producer to come out of satellite radio of all time. Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. You kind of ran through your list of shows there after Ron and Fez. Boy, your back must hurt from carrying all those other people for X numbers of years.
Ouch.
But I mean, here we are. Other than
not
Roy.
Ron Bagton, Fez Watley. So
no, that's what I'm saying. After those two,
in case anyone's wondering,
no,
obviously I'm going to be very complimentary. I mean, I love Ron and I love Fez, and I think I'm going to just be loving and respectful to them. Having said that, the Earl Douglases of the world.
Well, he will certainly come up.
The Chris Pepper Stanleys, the Pitty Fangs. Pitsy, I can't promise you're not going to get some shrapnel, my man.
Oh, boy.
I'm not promising smack talk. I'm promising insightful behind-the-scenes talk. But if sometimes I got to get a little critical of somebody, I will. But I'm going to have I'm not going to be critical of Ron and Fez.
How could you?
But everyone else is.
Neither you nor I would be here without them.
Exactly.
Honestly, you wrote a letter to them when you were bartending to say, hey, I'm in radio. I've got this kind of thing going on. I want to be a producer. And I did the same thing to you, which is why it's truly an honor to get to do this with you.
Thank you.
But let's get to what we're here to talk
about. All right,
so
we have an organized thing with this, believe it or not, and we're going to be telling these episodes, and we don't know how long these episodes are going to be, and we don't know how many episodes with each story arc we're going to do. But basically, that's how we're going to break it down. We're going to try and capture some real big time moments, but we will work our way backwards and see the build up to the moments. All the things that transpired for some of these very fun moments and fun things. We got the clips, we got the audio, we got it very well produced. Thank you again, Robert.
Well, let's knock on wood for that, huh?
And Jared and Ronafez Archivist. But yeah, I'm very excited to be doing it. So what is this theme? What are we discussing?
Tonight we are discussing a theme that's actually kind of close to my heart.
Do you mind if I drink? Because this is your show, not mine.
Absolutely,
and
please.
I don't feel the necessary, I don't feel like I need to be responsible.
No, please, have a drink. Maybe we'll get some more deeper stories that wouldn't come to the surface.
You will, baby.
I know what I'm doing. But tonight we're talking about a story that's actually close to my heart, because one time, and a lot of fans may not know this because you're such a good guy, but I had a breakdown before the Eastside Dave show. Like, we're talking full-on tears. You had to pull me into the studio, throw everybody else, and be like, Rob, take a breath. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I remember.
And
was that well? Actually, I remember you having tears a couple times. One time, Roy yelled at you. I always love when Roy gets people teary up. Was that the time?
Yeah, I think it all kind of piled on that day.
Okay.
He hit me. You didn't realize he had hit me, and then came in the green room and hit me with that same energy. And it was just like, oh, come on, everybody. But the story you used, and what it used to be is I would irritate you before the show.
Yes.
And it would get you amped up, and I felt
no,
like
I hated it. I hated
it. And
yeah. I hated
me.
Okay, listen, I love you. I love you, but you have this. Your brain doesn't understand that. Prior to a show, 5-10 minutes before the show, when the host is looking for information, just give me the absolute information. I could never ask Robert a question about a technical issue or something without him doing a usually 30 to 60 second improv stand-up routine, and I'm like, you're killing me.
And I thought that meant like
furious.
I was killing, and so then you had to no, I'm just kidding. I honestly thought that's what you did to Fez and before the show and stuff, and you pulled me aside and were like, no, do you think honestly I would smash somebody's face into pizza just on a whim? You think I would do that to my boss without planning it? And you use this story as the explanation. So without further ado,
so you were going to assault someone at Compound Media?
No, this was basically, I was saying, no, Dave, that's how I get you fired up and in the mood before the show. And you were going, no, Rob, that's called a work.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We plan it ahead of time.
You don't need to motivate me by pissing me off. There is a weird thing, and it's sometimes these producers they're like, I gotta piss off the host because I get the best out of him. That's if the host sucks. If the host has no talent and can't manifest energy and passion on his own or her own, they suck. Every fucking time that red light's on, I got it. I got it right now. I'm actually chill and relaxed, but I'm telling you, and you're starting to fucking heat me up now. You're starting to heat me up right now because now I'm flashing back to you monkeying around before the goddamn shows, giving me a little joke with one line, and I'm just trying to fucking figure out what time the fucking guest is calling in.
Exactly. But since this moment, when you pulled me aside and said, no, look, like I wouldn't have done this.
Right. I wouldn't have ever actually slammed Fez's face into pizza. This was something that was performed by professionals who were really fucking good at their job. I will brag about that.
And you, because I had people. Hang on, real quick. You looked me in the eyes and you said that through my tears. I looked back and remember thinking, bullshit.
You didn't believe me?
There's no way that this wasn't a shoot.
You didn't believe me then. Do you believe me now?
Even going back now, it still blows my mind how good it was. If
now,
it was
Ron
truly
Bennington
a shoot,
and I together appeared on Anthony Cumia's show, where I talked about how it was performed so well, we worked people so well that I got death threats. I got my tires were slashed and a death threat left on the windshield of my car. I'm going to kill you for what you did to Fez with the pizza. I got death threats sent to my house, letters, that were evidence because I immediately contacted the NYPD. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. They came to my house and said, yeah, this is a crime. This is a federal crime. By the way, I actually know I have a good suspicion of the person who they're from Pennsylvania, your stomping grounds, you piece of shit. And if this person ever pops up in New York again, I actually have a not one but two NYPD detectives who will fucking bust their ass.
Amazing.
They'll be fucking sitting in Attica. I swear to God. But these death threats were coming at me because of the pizza thing, and it was all performed.
Even being told that and knowing you and not calling you a liar at all.
But Ron said that. What you wouldn't believe Ron. Everyone believes Ron.
I believe Ron in the sense that I think, yeah, it was probably a work, but it's so well done that there are moments that feel like they had to be genuine.
I've had people come and say, well, then you guys, and they think this is an insult. They go, well, you guys then should be in Hollywood because I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And every time they say that, I go, yeah, correct.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Yes, we should be or should have been in fucking Hollywood or on Comedy Central or all giving fucking massive. Yes, yes, you're right. You are correct.
It was
because we were that talented to work your ass.
It was that good.
But it's like the people who fucking know the people who don't worry about that shit are just being entertained and having a good time.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I meant it as a compliment. Like it
I
was so
I'm
good.
not
I had a hard time believing it was acting.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited.
So, I think we've set it up well.
I'm complimented by you.
The bit was enough to get death threats.
Yeah,
the bit was so good that to this day, your own producer has a hard time believing that it was a
despite
work,
the fact that on Anthony's show, Ron Bennington and myself both said it was a work.
Absolutely, people still have a hard time
there's
believing
three people involved. One, unfortunately, has passed away. And by the way, God bless Fez. Rest in peace. I love him. We went to Fez Con. It was amazing. One of the inspirations where we said we had the first inspiration, because I've had this idea for 2 years now?
At least.
But the first, so it was the looking for Richard, motherfucker. Something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. That was the first inspiration. But after FezCon, we said, all right, look, we've had the idea. Let's get off the ass and fucking get going with this.
And we were all fired up. Yeah. Because we missed Fez.
But yeah, three people are in on this. One has passed away. The other two people say it was a work. And people are still not believing for some reason. What is the point of fucking making it up?
Well, I do have some questions that may help alleviate that along the way.
Now.
But I think people are fired up. And without further ado, we should get into the subject we're talking about today, which is the infamous Pizza Smash incident.
Yeah,
which
and
other archivists or Ron and Fez historians I've seen referred to as Slave Boy Week.
Okay.
So
because we had a week of Fez had to be my slave, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a week. It really ended up being about a day and maybe 15 minutes worth. So basically what happened is, for those of you who don't know or aren't as familiar, the first day back from vacation, because
we made a bet, right?
Yeah. So,
hey, by the way, this is where I am very much looking forward to hearing you, because I'm not going to lie. These things actually took place. A lot of shit took place 15, 16, 17 years ago. I got to tell you, Davey Mac's done like 8,000 goddamn radio shows. By the way, I'm still #1 in New Jersey for the last 32 books in a row. WRAT-FM, 95.9 FM, 6 to 10 a.m. every weekday.
Step to the king, step right.
Listenership between Monmouth and Ocean County of 1.8 million people. I'm #1. Think about that. But anyway, go ahead.
Just making sure we were still recording. But basically, so on the first show back, and you said this was 15 years ago, because on the first show back from vacation.
Okay, good. You're going to be doing a lot of refreshing of the memory here.
Absolutely. So on the first day back from vacation, 2008, you come in, and honestly, this is the first thing that Ron says on air. Let's take a listen.
We'll get back into some of your stuff, Fezzy, because I know once again, while we were I remember making the rule, no more bets. No more bets on the Ron and Fez program. But while we were away, you and Eastside Dave made a bet.
Yeah. So there we are. You were told no more bets. So basically,
I feel like I hear frustration in Ron's voice. I don't know why. How did Fez and I fuck up?
Well, this is where the bit starts. Let's jump back in time, actually, a little bit, and that's a good point. We got to go back to the last show before vacation. So
okay.
several failed bets along the way. One was you were supposed to stay away from Casey for 2 weeks and then found out she was pregnant. And so you had to reveal to Ron and Fez that your wife was pregnant to break the bet. And that's the only bet that you welched on the entire time.
That's the only bet I've ever welched on in my life.
And if
my life, I had to do bets that I was never a part of. Let's do an episode one time about the fact that I pinched hit for Chris Pepper Stanley to do Beard Wars with Fez, even though he was the loser. That bet had nothing to do with me. I'm
No.
Mr. Goddamn Payoff. That's what they call me. Davey Mack, Mr. Payoff.
And even as frustrated as Ron sounds there, as you can imagine, at the end of this, he's even more, and he steps in against the caller and goes, no, the only bet Dave has ever welched on is this one, and that's why, and we all agreed instantaneously to let him off the hook. So part of it is Fez's welching, but this had just happened. And then there was a contest right before break. You were doing impressions against a listener. And I forget who, it was a Mikey, I believe. I don't think it was D. It may have been
Mikey D. More than likely. I
Okay.
can't imagine Mikey Boy.
Yeah, that may be Mikey D then, but it wasn't good. You cleaned the floor with him. Did he want to be an actor?
Mikey D?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he lost and kind of got lippy with...
He was in, The Godfather.
okay.
But he was like 6.
Yeah.
Al Pacino and Diane Keaton walked past him in the Christmas shopping scene, and there's a little kid there wearing shorts. That's Mikey D.
Oh, nice. He was like your Macaulay Culkin of the Ron and Fez show.
Hey, man, you could say I was in The Godfather. That's pretty cool. I can't say that.
That is true, but
You know?
you also have a career in radio to be proud of, so unlike certain other people.
Whoa!
No, I mean, if it was Lene, we'd all be impressed by her radio show. But anyway, so you had a contest, and it didn't go well, and he ended up getting a little lippy with, what was the actress's name that would come in? Winnie Cooper. So
Right.
Ron got frustrated with that and clearly emphasized the no more bets.
Me? I got lippy?
No, because you were beating him so badly. Mikey got
Mikey
angry and
D
they got
got
snappy
lippy
back
against
and
Winnie
forth.
Cooper.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then Ron reiterated, this is why we don't do bets. This is why we don't do
Yeah.
competitions. And that's what a lot of people will focus on. But I honestly think there was several other factors here. One is people were looking at you as the replacement.
Let me just say this. You are one of the best Ron and Fez historians. I'm going to give you credit here for a second. Between you and Jared, but also Ron and Fez archivist, but you especially, because you tell me you listen to Ron and Fez every day to this day.
Yeah,
every day.
I'm a huge fan. I unfortunately caught it at the end of their run on satellite, but went back and listened to all the shows.
So you have like real fresh ears and fresh mind. for this.
absolutely. And
okay.
I mean,
so this is good. This is helping me.
good. I'm glad because
Just don't piss me off. After 2 of these
then I better get to influence
these
number 2
flying
quickly.
dogs 8.0, bro.
Ooh. Well, then I
Yeah.
better get to point 2 quickly before you drink anymore, because that was the idea that was going on of Dave versus Fez.
Okay.
That people were viewing you as trying to replace Fez. You were trying to get more on-air
No.
time. This was the perception that was out there,
Yeah,
though. And
I
I feel
love
like
the Ron and Fez show. Did they understand that I was a massive, massive fan? That I too am one of those people who said Ron and Fez helped me out through hard times,
absolutely.
and it had undying loyalty to them. I would never ever think of that. What I am and who I am as a performer is always someone who really wants to help the show. You might even call me a mercenary or whatnot. But whatever the show or the radio station that employs me, I will fucking do anything. And I will do it in multiple ways. You need someone to write a bit, write a sketch, come up with an idea, come up with a talking point, or do a stunt. The Dave haters back in the day would just concentrate on the stunt thing. They would, sort of, it would be,
absolutely.
they would intentionally ignore the fact that, I actually wrote all these things, performed characters, sketches, and did all this other shit, and did talking points and all that, and kind of came up with concepts and stuff. But whatever.
And one other thing you're really good at that people don't give you as much credit for is, and I think you learned this through Fez partly, because I've had a conversation.
I learned a lot through Ron and Fez.
Yeah, but I'm talking Fez in particular, because Big A actually told me this, that when you would help him insult Fez, Fez would pull him in breaks and be like, you got to be meaner. I love you, buddy. Trust me, you're not hurt. And like making yourself the heel to let other people shine was good.
Yeah.
So you would often be the
I
heel.
had to start as the heel of
so Fez could
when I
yell at
first
you.
entered, without a doubt.
But there was also Fez was freezing up at this point. He was having freeze ups. It was
I don't recall.
But
What year is this?
this is 2008. It just started.
Okay.
So in 2007, this perception kind of at the end was going, he had 2 rough years at this point, and Ron addresses that in there. He's like, I wanted 2008 to be the year of Fez. 2008, this was the best thing he's done since 2006. Like,
I mean, there was some health issues too.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. But you were on mic more, and people were taking that as, "Ooh, look, Dave." So that was the other driving force from the fan hatred. I think was they thought you were trying to replace Fez, and
I was never trying to replace anyone.
Which is the beauty of
that's a totally irreplaceable person.
It's the perfect heel cell.
Who the hell? Yeah.
By you, I mean, like, to make, like, it helps ram, like, that's part of the reason why I think people were sending death threats and stuff.
100%. I had to go in, and I fully went in with kind of a heel mentality, you know?
Absolutely.
100%. That's how I started.
And I'm sure
I was, remember I was the hot dog vendor who kept like barging in and stuff, and so I kind of got like the heel thing of like, why is this hot dog vendor
doing all that? Yeah, and it was a brilliant bit,
people still think I was a hot dog vendor,
which is great because
does anyone realize it's like $50,000 to have to rent and operate and get a license for the hot dog carts in New York City? I was never a hot dog vendor.
Of course not.
There's people who think I was a hot dog vendor still.
Well,
I get it from time to time. Someone says, "Shut up, hot dog vendor. Don't you sell hot dogs?" I'm like, "Oh, bro.
And
really?
Honestly,
you believe everything you hear?"
This wasn't a question that I had for this particular one, but it is a question I've had for years. Billy Staples' mother was a hot dog vendor at the Yankees game. Was it a tongue-in-cheek nod to that you called yourself a hot dog vendor?
No, I'm not sure if it was my idea. It might have been Ron's or something. I don't think it was my.
They were always so good at like
to
layering tributes that I thought maybe it was like a
maybe it was
internal. Who knows? But very interesting.
There is one thing that's kind of weird. When I was in 8th grade, first job was at the Butcher Block in Spring Lake, New Jersey. When I was 14, and I worked for the butchers, and they had this little kind of one day on Saturday. They had a little small town fair where they closed down the streets. And they actually sent me out to the sidewalk to be a hot dog vendor. It's possible I told that to Ron, and he made me a hot dog vendor. I actually have the photo of that. I should give it to you after
I can put it in here.
Thing.
And people
okay,
could be looking
remind
at it
me.
right here, right now.
Remind me. I'll give you the photo. I believe I have the photo in the photo album.
So we've got two of the factors, and that's the one people talk about a lot. The first one being obviously the no more bets kind of drove you guys to do this. The other factor was the Dave versus Fez, but I think there's a third factor that a lot of people miss here.
Ooh,
and that is
this.
The last show before vacation, Ron reveals Earl Douglas is on injury reserve light duties because he's gotten his official diagnosis from the doctors for why he's been a fainting goat. And I think as a result, if you know the dynamics of the Ron and Fez show, there's a guy everybody shits on. In the staff at all times. It was Earl at points.
Yeah, it was
Al Dukes prior.
Silly guy.
Like, but there, along the way, there was always that one person that kind of took the brunt.
Wasn't on purpose. I mean, I think you're thinking that people were slotted into categories when it was just it was organic. It was organic.
Genuinely, it's organic. Yeah. I think that it goes along.
He's one of the odder people of all time. I've never seen someone who eats so many saltines dry, like no peanut butter. No jelly, no nothing. You just sit there and you go through a fucking packet of goddamn saltines with nothing on them. And then, he cuts food so small. Earl Douglas gets one meatball. A grown man can pretty much get the fork and put it in their mouth. But okay, cut it in half. Earl will cut one meatball. He'll cut it 12 ways. It'll be a little tiny, specks of meatball, and you're like,
and is that not a microcosm for everything he did? Like if he was doing production,
it's actually a reflection of me. I was so obsessed with him that I would actually stare and observe everything that he would do every day. But the ginger ales and the saltines. And the watching the Yankees in the Opie and Anthony office.
Not
shit
hearing
like
you
that.
say any radio production stuff in that list of things he would do every day.
Well, because he would stay there. He'd tell Ron Fez, I was there for 12 hours after the show. 3 to 4 of those hours was because he didn't want to pay for the Yes Network, which is the Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network in New York. But Sirius or XM had Yes Network, so he could watch his cable. He could watch the Yankees at the office. I knew what his little ruse was up to.
And it's a lot easier to say you've been there for a while without eyes looking over your shoulder. Before the show, everything's under a microscope. After the show, there are producers like that on a lot of staffs that say, I've been doing hours worth of work that have been hanging around just after the show.
Yeah, after the show.
And feel like they don't have to be there on time. But I think him not being the scapegoat who, when something went wrong, you could be like, it's Earl because he would screw it up. Now you were all picking up the slack of his responsibilities. And there was no guy that was just the automatic guy who was screwing everything up because he just wasn't allowed to touch anything at this point.
Really?
Yeah, like in this entire bit, he says one thing on air, which is...
So Earl was what? He was still employed.
He was employed. I think he was doing like clipping together the best ofs behind the scene, things like that. But he was not doing any on-air stuff, really. Like that entire last live episode before break, you kept trying to bring him in. Ron had to be like, no, he's got to stay relaxed. Like, so
he's got to stay relaxed, like he's a fucking ticking time bomb.
Absolutely.
Like one thing bad happens, Earl Douglas is going to be Michael Douglas from Falling Down, for Christ's sakes. I mean, he's got to relax. That's hysterical.
So those are our three factors, and like I said, you got the no more bets. You've got Dave versus Fez. Another thing that was kind of happening at this time was the Casey versus Fez was starting.
Oh boy!
And even if that wasn't in reality, Fez's perception was that on air, he was presenting it like Casey was attacking him. I think it may have been played up. It's hard to tell because Fez and you and Ron and
that was hard for that was hard for me to tell. My mind was getting warped at that point as well because it is a little bit insane. I was married at the time, and I thought usually the old thing was people's ladies and significant others were off the table. I never,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
but then again,
you never know. And in the long run, he may have been bright. Who knows? He may have called that one, but I'm just saying, you never know. But so now here we are. Over break, the Giants played the Bucks the last Sunday in the wild card round of the playoffs.
Let's go Giants!
And you picked, obviously, the Giants. Fez picked the Bucks. You agreed.
Well, I ain't picking Tampa, brother.
How could you? How could you?
I wouldn't.
But basically, as a result, Fez has to be your slave boy for the week. Now, when you guys were coming up with bet ideas, I'm just going to throw some things out there. Obviously, there's a homoerotic undertone to it.
What?
And honestly, anytime.
Obviously, bro, that's obvious to your screwed up brain.
Mine and Mr. Bennington's, because the minute you make him do something, he goes, "This is just bad BDSM." So I understand where you're coming from.
No, I want to hear your question. There's homoerotic undertones, and two men having a bet.
What? Well, and. What was this an organic bet? Like, did you just come up and go,
yeah, Giants Bucks. But Fez and I loved football. Let's not forget. Fez and I went to Notre Dame games for a couple of years. Every Saturday we would go to Notre Dame games when Ron Fez came back to New York. Maybe it was for Sirius XM, or maybe it was for XM itself.
Yeah,
and we were hitting all the games. We loved football. We would sometimes even all go to Hooters on Sunday as well.
Absolutely.
And one time saw Adam Sandler there, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty
Hooters
impressive.
on 57th Street. But
so you made the bet, but my question is particularly slave boy, because I could see this being, and Ron alludes to it later, as a way to kind of ease Fez back into the show. Like, you could have made him do things to get him involved. It could have been a good way to get rid of the no rule bet. If this goes well, hey, all of a sudden, no Fez isn't a welcher. It can be, and without Earl around, it kind of lets you guys get out some of that animosity without having to attack each other. You could do it through the bit.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think anytime you could just put Fez in any one of those situations, he's always fantastic. I mean, if you think about it, anytime whether it was that, I mean, I know it was controversial, but the Hitler mustache where he actually was walking around.
Yeah, that was...
anything with Opie and Anthony. When one time Fez and I had to go to O&A on their 92.3 K-Rock studios and barge in, and Fez got on the stripper pole. He was always really good at that kind of thing. So, yeah.
That is one of my favorite Ron and Fez moments of all time, with him coming back in and being like, I showed them, Ronnie. And Ronnie being like, what did you show them, Fez? You just danced naked for a bunch of men. What did you show them? No, I showed them, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great moment.
But he was excellent in that, and since I'm one of those people who does not believe in saying no to because I think that when producers, and this isn't a specific comment about anyone, about any show for that matter, I've heard it on WFAN shows. Okay, so it's not even just the Ron and Fez O&A world, but there's nothing worse for me as a listener when I hear there's a good idea or something's fun that the hosts have and they need the producer to do it, and the producer just says, oh, I don't want that, and they drag their feet. I actually feel like vomiting. It's poisonous to my ears. I fucking hate when a producer drags the show, just literally kills it with, I don't want to do that, your bit or your stunt, because why? Because you're a fucking little producer. You get your ass out there and fucking do it. And without naming names, there were a lot of O&A guys like that, where the producers put themselves above the show. Never me, never Fez. We did whatever the fuck we could to do audience. Sometimes it's stunty. Sometimes it's really smart comedy, though. So, whatever.
You always stepped up, that's for sure. But we are here to name names. So, on the O&A cast,
I just said,
did you potentially stop doing a show with one of them because they wouldn't do a stunt? Or?
No, Sam was one of the people who would do stuff.
Kidding. He was one of the good guys. But
Eric Nagel would say, with all due respect to E-Rock, no. And instead of O&A doing a fucking really fun, awesome bit, and we're having fun and shit, you then went into 15, 20 minutes of hosts begging someone who works for them to entertain people, and it was just, it sounded like the radio show hitting the goddamn iceberg to me. I always hate it. The air comes out. So the people that didn't understand about the Dave Man is that I believed in going for it at all times, whether it's a sketch or a stunt or something
tattoo
written,
for life on your arm or back, like
branded, whatever. And Fez was the same way.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Even though it comes up in here, the Welcher thing is a running theme. Like, I'm not a Welcher, and you keep calling him a Welcher. It's to drive the bit. It's obvious there's a respect and admiration. But anyway, we played that clip. You came into the first day with nothing prepared. You did not do any slave boy bets at all the first day back from vacation. You heard the disdain in Ron's voice. Was he on board when you told him?
I don't, I guess it's possible that I forgot. I got to throw myself under the bus.
Absolutely.
It's very possible we came back from vacation and I had forgotten about this slave boy week.
And I think part of that had
to do
with...
on me.
Well, no, I think part of it is on Earl, because I think it had to do with you guys all had new responsibilities coming in from the break. Oh, by the way, another pressure.
All right, that's true. Thank
coming
you for
down
making
on
me
your
feel
head.
better. You know what? Hold on, real quick. It was 100% Earl's fault. Now that Robert has corrected me. Thank you.
And another pressure coming down on your head is the following Monday, you have an evaluation for a raise to see where you're at with the company, if you're going to continue with the program. So it's extra pressure. One guy's hurt.
Do you know if we are XM only or Sirius XM at this point?
I do not off the top of my
I
head.
apologize for asking, because 2008 is confusing to me, because I think that sometimes that is right around the merger. And you're right. Things really were just crazy around the merger. I don't think Earl really survived the merger initially. I think when we went over to Sirius, he was in that booth for a little bit, but
he eventually,
Earl I think of more XM studios, not as much Sirius studios.
But I think it was towards the end of his era then, because this evaluation probably had something to do with it.
Right. But the evaluation was like Earl came across as fucking Hannibal Lecter to these people. They were like, this guy's crazy.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing I feel like Ron and Fez was always great with doing was before a big promotion or before a big deal, creating a stir, creating talk around a big like getting a good buzz going. And who wouldn't want to do that? And so you go
those
through
fucking
the first
evaluations sucked.
Yeah, so you're getting all that
bladder,
stuff, and that's who's coming.
Would always come in, and they always be like, "So what do you do?" I'm like, well, I'm a producer for the Ron and Fez show, Mr. Blatter. And be like, oh, so what do you produce? And I go, well, I produce this and this. I produce these sketches, blah, blah, blah. And I've done these characters. He would constantly go, okay, that's like, those are all like characters and performances. What do you produce? And I would say, well, I produced concept episodes like this episode, that episode. Or I produced this like shitty but fun song parody. Or I produced. And he would be confused. He would go, I don't understand. What do you produce? Steve Blatter thinks production is producing. I swear to God. And that's what happens when you get a fucking airheaded music FM program director fucking schmizbo trying to direct creative comedy people. He's not going to understand the world. He thought, I swear to God, he thought production meant the same as producing. And he was like, yeah, but what do you produce? I'm like, that's any fucking monkey can go in and load stuff into the goddamn computer and that shit. I'm coming up with some ideas and content for the show. Producing. He didn't understand.
No,
he did not understand. He would say, well, sounds like you're more of an on-air talent or an on-air personality. Go, I am, but I'm producing. I'm content, things to talk about,
yeah, exactly.
on the air, characters. You see how this works? I produce a sketch that goes on the air. Yeah, but it's on the air. It's more like you're an on-air guy. Like, what have you produced? Oh, God. Kill me. Shoot me in the face.
It's guys like you who always take the first bullet. Because
I really am the Jackie Robinson of producers.
Because if you could just sit there and go, well, my job is on Monday. I cut together this segment for Tuesday, and then I cut together this stinger for what? Like, that's what they want to hear and be like, oh, okay. Check.
That 100% is what they want to hear. And the production guys would be looked at as like these little gods, even though not one of them had an ounce of fucking charisma. You couldn't put their charisma into a fucking thimble or just an interesting personality. But sure, they can load stuff into the computer. Which really producing?
Guess what? So can any high school intern. But so Monday,
they never understood me at Sirius. The XM people did, but not the Sirius people.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's a serious problem. But on Monday, nothing happens. Tuesday, you don't even address the Slave Boy saga at all. And we will come back.
So we're just dropping the ball here.
With Wednesday, where things start to ramp up right after this commercial break.
When Monkey House rocks, he rocks a fat ass. When Monkey House rocks, he rocks a fat ass. Monkey House!
And just like that, we are back.
We're back, man.
And I got to tell you, I love that sponsor we just read for, which is no one. Anyway, Here we are. We are trudging right along, and we are at Wednesday in our
Trudging?
story. Trudging, yeah, continuing.
Oh, is that a word?
Yeah.
Trudge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the Trudge Report?
That's the Drudge Report.
But you wouldn't drudge right along.
Trudge right. I'm going to have to take your word on that. I didn't know that trudge was a word.
Were you the optimist oratorical champion in 7th grade? Neither was I, because I lost to a guy named Nikado Avocado who now makes videos eating and getting fat on YouTube. And he cried, Dave. That's why I lost. He cried and the judges felt bad. And I've moved on. It's fine.
Fucking whole thing is rigged.
Me and the guy who took second. Anyway, we're back Wednesday. And you were saying you and Fez love football. And coincidentally enough,
love football.
The next reference we get is because you made a bet on football.
It was, what was it? It was Giants-Bucks.
That's how we ended on Slave Week. But now the playoffs continue, and you made a bet on where you took every underdog team except for the Patriots. And if you lost, do you know what happened?
What?
Earl Douglas got to pee in your butt. And as you're making your picks, Fez is also making his picks for the weekend. And this is where we're going to get to our second clip, because Ron says something that makes me laugh out loud. Fez gives his pick in the game, and Ron says this.
Hey, why don't you and Dave have a big slave boy thing for that?
Yeah, in fact, the slave boy bet, I'm getting a little sick and tired of Fez not pulling his side of the bargain. It's a little bullshit. I believe you've been welching all week.
Earl, who are you picking in this?
I like the Cowboys and the squeaker. They're going to win by...
The next thing, it gets brought up again. you go, oh, I've got something in store for Slave Boy. And Ron goes, the only time you have something for Slave Boy is when I bring it up. It's the only time you have something. But you did have something. And what it was a dog collar and a water bowl that you would put on Fez and make him drink water out of the bowl.
I like that. That's fun. I can't have a dog Fez.
No, that's great.
That wasn't a good.
No, that's a fun kind of, especially in 2008 as Twitter's starting, you're starting to get a more social media. The boards are big.
I think what we wanted initially was that the bets, like they would be mild, little bit more. We fucked up because I didn't remember on Monday
or Tuesday
this thing or Tuesday.
Yeah.
So if we had started on Monday with the dog collar, and then that's just a nice base, and then you have it a little bit more extreme, then I think we would have had something. Starting with the dog collar on Wednesday, probably.
Two questions about the dog collar in particular.
Yes,
one comes from, as you've referenced several times, Jared, who wanted to know, was it Strummer's collar?
No, it wasn't Strummer's collar. I bought a dog collar for the bed itself.
Okay. Just that was a Jared question. He knew your dog was Strummer at the time and wanted to know if it was in fact his collar. He wanted to know if it was my
dog's collar.
Yeah. To see
if dog was. It's one of those little tiny Pomeranians. The dog had a neck of 4 inches. Unless we fucking miniaturized Fez with the same technology from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Put it around his ankle.
The Pomeranians fucking the thing. They wouldn't have fit around Fez's ankle. Okay. Come on, Jared.
So
what's the next question? What's the next stupid question?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a stupid question.
Now you got me hot again.
Well, I mean, I was
feeling good.
This is the point at which both Ron and I went, this seems a little homoerotic. Because I was thinking Spinal Tap Smell the Glove. Okay, I could see that. But
then again, you're right that they wanted a woman on the cover and we were 2 men. Performing. Yeah. It's just a fine line between brilliant and stupid. It's just a fine line.
And that's a great reference for this whole segment.
But it really was. I was thinking Spinal Tap with the dog collar.
That makes sense. You had the dog collar on him. You made him drink out of the bowl. I was thinking we
could do some funny little pictures. I could be stepping on him or something.
Later on, something comes up and somebody goes, that's bad. And Ron goes, yeah, that's almost as bad as Slave Boy Week. And you go, I've got something for that. And Ron goes, no. The only time you have something for that is when I say you do. And you go, no, I've actually got something. A cupcake had fallen on the floor and you want Fez to eat it up off the floor.
That's good.
That's great.
Dehumanizing. And that's what we're looking for Slave Boy Week.
It's the only time in this you hear Ron escalate it. Because he goes, don't eat it off that floor. Take it out to the dirty carpeting, and makes him bring the cupcake out to the even worse floor to eat off of. After telling Fez, don't do that. It's dehumanizing.
That's fantastic.
The ultimate master of the twist, well, I mean, Mr. Bennington.
That was wonderful.
So as he's eating the cupcake, you have the great idea. Hey, Fez, take your shirt off and name your nipples.
Yeah.
And Fez delivers.
Fez's nipples came up a lot. Especially when Big A, Andrew Gold, would come in there sometimes, and he would take shots at Fez. He was often taking shots at Fez's nipples for some reason. They were constantly being concentrated on. Now, obviously, I was writing those little jokes for Andrew, and so now it's disturbing that the nipples keep popping up because the nipples with Andrew. Now especially I'm having him nape his nipples. Maybe you're onto something with the homoerotic thing.
Now he's wearing a dog collar, shirtless.
All right, there's something there. Maybe there was a slight attraction between Fez and myself.
I've listened to this saga, probably 6 times in preparation for this, and every time when Fez spits out the right name, okay, this nipple's Aunt, this one's Opie, I laugh out loud. Because it was the perfect way to just get a joke in.
That's funny.
And then later you tell him to feed some of the cupcake to Nipple Opie.
I don't see what's wrong with Slave Boy Week. Now I think this sounds great. I'm loving this.
It does sound great. It was kind of forced.
It was forced?
No. Meaning that every time Ron brought up how bad of a bit it was, you seemed to have something ready to go. Not so much that it was bad, but just, maybe a lack of preparation for some of the things.
I think I had the ideas, but I don't know.
What happened on Tuesday? Did you guys just get busy?
Yeah, I don't know what happened on Tuesday. We forgot it, and or At that point, since we didn't do it on Monday, maybe we were thinking, well, maybe the bet is dead. So let's just not even
bring it up
on
and
Tuesday.
Ron does beg you multiple times just to stop the bit.
Hey, we just didn't listen.
Almost every time you do something bit related, it's Ron going, can we please just not do this? And that kind of takes us through Wednesday. I did mention the pee in the butt bet.
Yeah, what was the outcome of that?
Did anybody ever pee in your butt?
I think Earl did.
Well, so actually, later on we'll come back to this, but one of the resolutions was that Fez would represent Earl in that bet. So
okay.
It would have been Fez. Did you have pee in your butt?
I think so. I think there's a possibility that there was pee in the butt. I believe that we closed the office door for Ron and Fez, and then someone had me pee, maybe not in the butt,
like
but
on
maybe
the butt.
on the butt.
How do you come up with that idea?
That was always a poll option on ronfez.net where every single poll they would ask a question and you would get options A, B, C, and then D was always pee in my butt. Don't know how that tradition started, but that was pretty much the genesis of that. So because of the message board, every poll, the fourth option was pee in my butt. We decided to throw that
Make
one
it a
in
real
there.
bet. That's kind of fun.
There it is.
God, the consummate producer.
Boom.
Now, we heard you bring up welching and saying that you thought Fez was welching on this bit.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like
which is a word, not like trudge. Continue.
I'm going to go have some Trudge's grape juice after this. But as you're progressing, is this your way to kind of remove that label for Fez? Like, look, he paid his bet. He's not a welcher. You know what I mean? Almost if you're setting up a hero in wrestling, you set up the bad guy and kind of present the opposite.
I was defending Fez.
I think you were setting up Fez to get rid of that label by saying he's a welcher, putting it out there by him fulfilling the bit. It's him. It's almost like if you were the heel in wrestling, right?
Yeah, I'm just doing good old-fashioned heel
along,
work is really what I'm doing.
And you go, hey, heel, you could never choke, or hey, babyface, you could never choke slam me. It's so that he can choke slam you to prove that he could. I think it was almost that.
And
with
I think
Fez
we
here.
knew that we have to do something on Friday, something big. So might as well set it up that he's not going to pay anything off, that nothing's going to happen on Friday, and then something big will happen on Friday. You see what I'm saying?
That does make sense.
Okay. I'm glad it makes sense to you.
And so that kind of ends Wednesday.
That ends Wednesday?
He eats the cupcake.
He ate the cupcake off the floor?
And
I'll tell you what, though, a lot of those cupcakes were goddamn good. Now, those floors weren't. You had not only the Opie and Anthony crew, but the Ron Fez crew, and then you had the Frank Sinatra people with Jonathan Schwartz and Little Buddy. They were always, and Little Buddy had very muddy shoes. I don't know where he was. I don't know if he was hiking somewhere in Manhattan before
Hiding
he got to the
hookers in the
office.
woods.
Yeah, always dirty, muddy. He had dirty pants cuffs and dirty shoes all the time. So eating that cupcake was no small feat by Fez, because Buddy was
wow.
He was like a little Pigpen type of character. I actually saw the stink lines coming from Buddy. Assaulted one of our interns one time, but that'll be a different story for a different day.
It does throw some weight in here that Earl. No, I'm sorry. What was I saying here? Oh, was the better way to still engage with football with Fez, even though football Saturdays were gone at this point? Notre Dame Saturdays.
No, it was because it was obvious. Giants and Bucks.
Okay, just curious.
That's fine. Your question is valid. I wasn't biting your head off.
So we enter Thursday now.
Yes. My favorite day of the week.
Ron,
We got Family Ties,
and
Cheers, Night Court. That's a big time lineup. I'm getting rid of the 8:00 show because we all know what Dr. Huxtable was into.
So you also get brought up on air again because Ron mentions how humiliating this entire bit has been. He says it's humiliating. People start to give ideas. You go, what if we do this? What if we do that? Ron's shooting him down very dismissively. And then he says a line, and he says, that's humiliating. That's almost as humiliating as if you guys would have come into the office this morning and said, despite being in radio for all these years, we don't know how to pay off this bit. And I am genuinely curious if that happened. Did you come in Wednesday and go, hey, Ron, or Wednesday night or Thursday morning and go, hey, Ron, can you help us figure out how to polish this bit off?
No.
And I don't think it would have been as desperate as that, but I do think it's...
We wouldn't have done that because we would have probably thought better of that. That's a... Hey, we really suck at our job. We're done thinking. Basically you're throwing in the white flag of simply thinking and being creative. So you really shouldn't be into like, I just can't think of what to do. Can you do it for me? Once you start doing that, you might not. You probably should be out of a job when you really think about it. I mean, that's my thing. Is like produce something.
And beautiful Brazilian Julie's in. Mm-hmm. Was that her name?
Yeah, Brazilian Julie. Sure.
Yeah, and she was known for being beautiful. She was in, and she starts throwing ideas out.
Yeah, she was nice.
Hey,
nice lady.
What if you made this Fez the slave boy for Casey since she just had a kid and he could help her and do laundry and stuff for the week? And Ron delivers another one of my favorite lines, which is, honey, that's a creative idea. You don't belong in this room. We don't have creative ideas in here.
Well, I mean, what? And he's what? So he's all of a sudden he's Mrs. Garrett. Different strokes. He'd move in with us. See, something to say. I mean, like, well, while that sounds fun, can that be captured on the radio?
No,
you're not going to be able to capture it on the radio, Fez, folding laundry in my house, in my apartment in Brooklyn.
And even still, at this point, it seems like people aren't giving you guys the benefit of the doubt. Because Ron mentions the board's turning on you. He pulls all the other producers, including Pepper, Lily, and Earl, who all, despite Earl is the most adamant that it's not going well. Chris gives a typical Chris answer.
What does he say?
Whatever Ron says in a cool hit voice.
What does he say? I want to know. I want to know if I should be getting fired up right now.
You shouldn't be getting fired up. It was literally just he was clearly doing something else and they told him in the booth, just say yes. And he agreed with Ron. And then Lily kind of hesitates and tries to take your side a little bit.
Really?
Like, maybe, but not yet. But maybe it could.
Shocking.
Which is, rare because I know she seems to never take your side, particularly
we were fine
with this.
We're fine.
Then the callers start doing some things where they call in, and it seems like they may be stealing your thunder a bit because they give ideas like, why don't you make it positive for Fez? And Ron goes, yeah, you could have made him do Fezatorials or Jan Brady or all these things. And it seems like you may have had some of that planned for the next day because you kind of come in like, no, we're going to do all that. And he goes, you can't do it now because the callers just said it, Dave.
There was, I think, maybe some thinking of that. There was some thinking of maybe a Fezatorial that I would write that would glow about me, or like a Ric Flair that would be all about the promo would be about how awesome I was.
That is a great idea.
So I would have loved to see. That.
Okay, all right,
but say Luffy. The callers, they stole my thunder. You ever like that on an AM sports talk where the guy goes, Hey, the caller before just stole my thunder, but I still want to talk about Derek Jeter's glove. It's like stole my thunder. How did that become some kind of catchphrase?
Maybe like the Greek gods,
fucking Thor, some kind of shit.
Who knows?
All right. Anyway,
stole a hammer.
Yeah,
Marvel
stole my thunder.
But so Julie gives you the hard time. And you actually seem to have a little thing prepared because you go, I actually did bring in some bills I'd like Fez to pay. And you bring out $180 Time Warner bill. And he goes, Jesus Christ, $180 for Time Warner.
Wait a second. This is fucking great to me. I am literally just bringing in my own home bills and asking this guy to pay them off. Now listen,
well, hang on,
that's not exciting, but that's fucking funny.
Because the second bill you hand him, you go, I know it says Arlene McDonald, but it's for me.
So my mom, Beanie Mac, still with us, but her actual name, on her birth certificate is Arlene. But Beanie, still with us and still doing a good job. But that's hysterical. I want her bill paid apparently.
Yeah, well, it was the phone bill, so at the time you would get your split of it paid.
My mom likes the phone. She likes to talk on the phone.
And Fez
help her out a little bit.
$180 for the cable bill. What'd you do? Buy the last plate? And you go, yeah, I did. And Ron goes, what'd you watch? Softcore porn? And you're like, no, it's just I don't know why it's that expensive. And then Fez opens the phone bill and goes, Jesus, this isn't much better. And you go, yeah, because I'm always on the phone with Time Warner asking why my bill's so high.
That's good shit by me.
Great Dave line.
But
So
listen, back in those days, the fucking internet and the cable was a ripoff. I don't know when we're going to get wise to that. That's a different topic.
It's still a ripoff. Yeah, different time.
Hmm.
But Fez goes, I have to pay your bills, and both
this is good shit to me.
Brazilian Jolie and Ron go, yeah, you're a slave. You have to pay his bills, and like you got to stop echoing him. And then he does a riff with Pepper where he's like, hey, this is what the bit is, Pepper. You just repeat what I repeat with a shitty English accent. I want you to pay my bills. I want you to pay my bills. So it feels like Ron's getting a little frustrated, but then you also go, and give me $20.
Yeah,
after he pays your bills.
I gotta have some walking around money.
So he gives you $20.
I don't need a lot, but if I want to go out and get a hot dog. Speaking of hot dog carts, I wasn't a New York City hot dog vendor, but I liked eating them.
Yeah,
and I like the soft pretzels too.
So you give me $20. He goes,
and there's the shish kebabs, the street shish kebabs I like too.
Yeah, falafel even. Good point. So he gives you the $20, and you go, make it 40. And then he gives you $40, which is just brilliant by you.
Yeah.
I hope to be that thrifty someday.
Yeah, I like money, free money. People paying the bills. That's always a fun thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And at this point, Ron goes, "Can we please just call this bit a loss?
Call it.
Can we please get out of here?"
Throw
and you go, "No, tomorrow's going to be magnificent."
Throw in the towel. That's it.
That's what Ron wants.
Like Joe Frazier against Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle. Just throw it in. Otherwise, someone's going to get killed here.
And this is where I do give you a little bit of seeing potentially the work versus shoot it. Because Ron never let people off the hook. It was more like humiliate yourself at how bad this bit's gone, or for the sake of the air, like he would make you play it out, almost make you do the thing you wanted to stop. So it's the first time I see potentially a work writing on the wall.
Okay.
Kind of enter in.
Yeah.
But the day ends there. You go, no, we're going to do something great. And he goes, you can't do what the caller said. You go, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. And then you roll into Friday, the last day of Slave Week.
Oh, yeah.
And I am going to pull up a clip, so we are going to pause right here.
Okay, let's pause.
So Thursday ends, and I've got my echo on, so
oh,
we're gonna
yeah.
turn that down.
I like that.
So Thursday ends, and you've been basically...
We've had a bad week, haven't we? That's what it sounds like.
You've been unfruitful thus far, is how I was going to say it. What you said was much
Did you just call
and...
us a couple of fruits, you son of a bitch?
No, I said unfruitful.
Oh, unfruitful? Okay.
I mean, anyway.
Well,
go ahead. Ron begs you at the end of the show. He goes, please, can we just call this? And you go, no. Tomorrow I'm going to shock the world. We're going to show him Slave Boy was a success and that Dave and Fez can pull off a bit.
I told him. Did I not tell him I was going to shock the world?
As you're saying that.
Like Muhammad Ali, Daddy.
Satellite
I shook up the world, Daddy. I shook up the world.
Well, you certainly did. But as
from the top of the mountains to the bottom of the canyon, baby. Oh, wait.
No, as you're cutting your promo, Satellite of Love is literally playing in the background. The show's wrapping up. My question is, what's the post-show meeting like? Do you and
post-show meeting is, we better have something good. That's all. We better have something good. Because if not, it has been an entire a wasted week.
Now, I know if you and I were doing a show together.
But then again, you seem to think that some of this Wednesday and Thursday is entertaining by us getting the boots verbally put to us.
Oh, absolutely. And
so
part of it is me saying
loss.
Like, this bit, when I was saying the Earl thing, like this bit has kind of become the Earl Douglas of the 2008 show so far. Because he's been off mic. He hasn't been able to do anything. And so it seems like when Fez needs, or Ron or Fez or anyone really needs to take a shot at something that isn't just, out of the blue to get some stress out, it's at this bit and how terrible it is. Fair
enough.
Now, if you and I were doing a show.
Yes, sir. Which we are right now. How weird is that? How mind-boggling is that?
It's some fucking
If we were doing
shit.
a show, we're doing it, bro.
If we were producing a show together as producers.
Technically, we kind of are.
We are.
Well, I'm not producing. I have nothing to do. You hand me the microphone. I'm going to answer your stupid, silly little questions and hope not to get drugged and my bum not to get, feel Robert Tamburo's pee-pee in it after when the night concludes, after I have my 6th IPA.
That's why you made me the host, not Jared. But if you and I were producing a show and we had gotten the executive order that this bet better pay off from who I considered Ron, like somebody of that God stature.
Sure.
I wouldn't leave Sirius until I had it worked out how we were going to pay off the bet. Is that how you and Fez operated? Or was it like, we're going to come in tomorrow morning and we'll just figure it out? Because honestly, you're that good that you could do that. I've seen you do that with things on the Davey Mac or Eastside Dave where you're like, I'll figure it out on air. And then it's the best part of the show because you're that good, that quick. So
I really am. Wait, so slow down for a second. What did you just say? Because I'd like to hear that again. I'd like the audience to hear that again, please.
I was saying, like, I could easily see you and Fez being like, we're that good at doing something on the fly that we would just show up and do it, because I've seen you do it for the Davey Mac Sports program and the Eastside Dave show where you would just show up and be like, we'll do it on air, and then it's the best part of the show. I don't know behind the scenes of Yaddle Shaddle.
Eastside Davidson Wrestling Show?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that whole thing's improv.
And now Davey Mac's Tales from the Satellite.
Not improv, very scripted. A lot of research went into this.
Well, these answers, I got no idea what the hell I'm going to say. I only got no papers in front of me.
I mean, that is true. You are just the consummate on the ball, Mr. Professional. I've said
I don't like to be surprised. I mean, I do like to be surprised. I like to do it. But when you're talking about this bet, you should be prepared. You need to. We discussed it on Friday.
So you knew going into the day how it was going to end.
Yes.
Okay.
Ron did too. We all did.
I believe Ron did. That said,
no, we all knew.
There is one line here coming up as we go into Friday that may.
You don't believe me.
I genuinely have a hard time. It's that good. The reaction is that good that
we all knew.
I'm looking into your eyes. I believe
we all knew. We were worked. I mean, you were worked. We knew. You're worked. Stop sending me death threats. Get over it.
Now, was the positive versus negative aspect looked at all? Because the callers did bring up that it could be a...
Gives a shit. I'll deal with the fucking repercussions. I'm a goddamn heel. If there's a negative reaction, I'm going to have to deal with the fucking fallout.
No, not you. For Fez. Because the whole time you've been making comments about things that you know bother him.
This is going to put Fez in a very sympathetic position, don't you think? You're getting some fucking asshole redhead, producer smashing the co-host's face into pizza.
It is.
Again, I do encourage people to think for a second. In no job, including radio, are you allowed to assault your boss. Stupid.
That's true.
And that's for the guy who still thinks it's fake or thinks it's real and sends me death threats. Are you that guy?
I'm not sending you death threats.
You're from Pennsylvania, correct?
I am.
The death threat guy is from Pennsylvania. Just let you know.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Is there some sort of what's the Leicester county?
Leicester.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's where the envelopes came from. That's what my New York police department guys told me. So they know they have an idea of who it may be from Leicester.
You know that Squeal Like a Pig movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Leicester County. That's who you're dealing with, that level of redneck. So be ready. But we're not even there yet. I'm saying, and I get what you're saying. It's almost like playing a girl in basketball, where the girl, if she beats you, she just beat a guy in basketball, and if she lost, she was a girl. What's she supposed to do? You put Fez in a sympathetic light.
It depends. If you're playing Sue Bird, you're going to get your ass kicked. But I know what you're saying.
Maybe you'd get your ass kicked. Bring it. What size ball are we playing with? Anyway,
I think it puts Fez in just fine positions.
It puts him in a nice light. Whereas if you had done it the way that the callers were calling for, where you made him do a Jan Brady or a Nature Boy, not that he wouldn't have stepped up and hit it out of the park. Every Nature Boy I heard him do, he did, but there was the opportunity for it not to live up to the hype. Whereas he's the sympathetic. Everybody kind of gets back on his side.
Thank you.
You're falling on the sword, a la Mark Anthony for him.
There it is.
If you're to believe that this was a work.
You should believe it because it was a work. But I want you to concentrate on what you just said. Who's willing to yet again sacrifice and be a team player? Bingo, bango. Who was never worried about ego or, I wonder if I'm going to be cool. I wonder if people are still going to like me. This is going to be bad for my reputation. Oh, shut up. Every single one of you producers who thinks that way about yourself, shut up. What makes me the best is that I bring it every goddamn day. I'm selfless. I'm about the team. I'm a fucking mercenary. I am loyal and passionate and creative for every radio show and every radio station I've ever worked with. Period. Thank you.
And
so,
you accept.
What's your next question?
Did I ask a question there?
I'm getting fired up again.
No, I'm glad to hear it. So we roll into Friday. You've got the plan all out. I's dotted, T's crossed.
100%.
Okay.
On Friday morning, we know this thing is going to end with me shoving Fez's face into the pizza. The trickiest aspect of this that we also discussed was how to do this in front of, at the time, we had the bleachers. We were in the XM studios on 57th Street, probably still the most glorious radio studio I've ever been in. Twice the size of Howard Stern's 92.3 K-Rock studio, and I know because we did Ron and Frez shows out of that place for a year, a couple of years.
Who's Frez?
Remember? Ron and Fez. A couple of years. We did shows out of that that legendary Howard studio, the one that you see on the E channel.
Yeah.
The XM studios on 57th Street were twice that size.
I actually remember you guys doing that because when you moved into Sirius XM, referring to the studio as a broom closet. Saying there's no space to do anything.
And it still is.
It still is.
It's still a dump.
I believe
Sirius with the black carpet everywhere. Why do they want such a deep, depressing, fucking awful, shitty ass look? I thought
you were about to say Sirius with the Black Earl back producing.
No, just everything was so dank. XM was so bright and awesome, and everything at Sirius is so fucking dark and cavernous. And just depressing, drab. XM had a lot of color, a lot of brightness to it. It was the grayest space ever. On the outside of the studio, you could even bring them in because it was that big that you could bring in sort of like a Little League field, those bleachers that you see right there. And you could bring those bleachers actually into, because they folded up, you could bring them into the studio. But I think for the pizza thing, they were still outside. But we had an audience of people sitting there.
And eventually, when you could bring them inside, if you brought cigars for Ron, you got a seat on the bleachers.
Yes.
No matter who you were. That was the one way to guarantee yourself a seat on the bleachers. That's one of my favorite bits.
Yeah, 100%. And so that was tricky, though, is to how are we going to do this in front of people? Like, are we good enough to pull it off in front of people? And then what are we going to do with Fez? How are we going to get Fez out of here? While there's people here. It's a little bit tricky.
And you can actually hear that come up because somebody chased him and all that stuff. So, but before we even get there, you come in Friday and the first thing we hear as a reference to the Slave Boy bet is Fez got a cupcake named after himself. It is an Oreo cupcake.
Oh, nice.
This was before they officially announced the Ron Bennington at Molly's Cupcakes. They had went and done a Fez behind his back, and Ron was not happy. You could hear him kind of busting balls, but also at one point he says a line where he's like, I wrote my dad a fax because he refuses to do emails. And I was like, hey, Dad, the cupcake dream's dead. You can go ahead and die now.
Was this Molly's? Who did that?
This was Molly's, yeah.
That's surprising because he was always saying, I want my own cupcake.
And it was a known thing. And I don't even know
was he saying that before this? Or did he get the cupcake and then start saying
No, he was saying this before this and was already...
That's what I thought, too. I want my own cupcake.
He had already suggested, like, multiple flavors.
Well, that's controversy I got no part of. I do not work at Molly's, so I wasn't healing out for Molly's fucking cupcakes.
Well, I was actually curious if Molly's actually did that or if they just did it as a one-day promotion to let you guys kind of set up some of the anger.
I have a feeling like they were being nice.
Okay, I mean, that's awesome.
We're going to give Fez a cupcake and everything like that and just kind of...
That is kind of funny.
Sometimes people aren't, like, tuned into what people are really wanting, and Ron wanted probably the cupcake.
One of my favorite parts of the Ron and Fez relationship is how Jeannie wished anything good that happened to Fez. So if a place was trying to make Fez feel better by giving him a cupcake, it was about how they didn't give Ronnie one. And you know what I mean? Like he would just make it bad. And it was one of the best things I enjoyed. But during this, you attack Fez. You go, I can't believe this. I can't believe you would do this to Ronnie. And Fez goes, I'm going to send an email saying I don't want it. And you go, isn't it funny how you do that after the fact? And you start talking about how he made Ron's family go see iRobot. And Ron says this line that I'm going to play for you.
What? Hold on. Fez made Ron's family go see iRobot?
Yeah. Apparently, a movie which came out, by the way, like 6 years before 2008. But for some reason, it had just come out on air. That he was the one who was like, Ron, you got to go see this movie, I, Robot. It's a great movie. And Ron's like, so I take my whole goddamn family, and they're just sitting there staring at me the whole time like, you think this is a good movie? And you brought that up. And Ron...
You ever have that where you go to someone's house and they just have the worst collection of like DVDs or Blu-rays, and it's just one shitty-ass movie? I know this guy. I went to his fucking thing, and everything is like just... movies that are just He loved Ronin and The Score with Robert De Niro. These are just milquetoast, bland, fucking movies. Awful fucking. And this guy's like, it's just a great crime movie. Like The Score, bro. Did you ever see Heat? Like fucking grow movie. Up, you fucking bitch.
But
by the way, this is someone who works with me on the radio. I'm not going to say who it is, though. I don't need to trash this person.
Well, I'm sure Roy Harder has a respectful...
It's not Roy. Go ahead.
But Ron, as you're starting to pitbull for Ron says this line, and it is the first hint I have that maybe you're telling the truth about this being work.
It's not started
fucking
I don't want this
food,
thing to shoot.
The movies.
I don't want this to shoot.
We heard about another movie recently that I was shocked about.
I don't even know what that is.
iRobot.
Oh, that was years ago. Fez talked
That's when it came.
So he doesn't want it to shoot.
Keep saying, I don't want this to shoot. And it's like, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe there were some underlying tensions between you and Fez a little bit. And he knows there's a heated bit at the end of the day, and he doesn't want it to turn into something else. Is that possible?
Maybe he doesn't want us to get carried away at the end. There's a possibility of that. Sure. We knew it was going to be intense. And again, with the audience there, we're like, oh boy. But we also felt very convinced that we could pull it off.
And that's great. Like
I'm sure Ron did want to get carried away. You know?
And maybe that's just a subtle reminder. I know sometimes you give clues on air that people might not always know, like to cut off Bobo, for example, when he starts ranting and things like that. But I was just curious if that was there.
Good question.
The next time we hear about the Fez Slave Boy bet it's January 10th. It's the first week back in the new year. What gets delivered the first Friday of every new year?
Pizza?
Mr. Watley's fashion list.
Okay, Mr. Watley's fashion list.
Now, I'm not quite the pop culture expert you were in that era. Who was it based off of? Somebody would put out their best.
Shit. There was a guy, Mr. Fuck. It was based on someone.
It was,
why do I want to say like Blackwell? Mr. Blackwell's fashion list? Is that the name? Mr. Blackstone?
Blackstone.
I feel like the name Black was in it, but it was like some fashion guru who would reveal his list and shit like that. And Fez took that from him.
Fez did, and he goes through his list, and there were some interesting names on there because the number one worst dressed was Sheepy.
Oh, this is a fashion list for us.
It was the worst dressed of the Ron Fez shows.
Okay, this is great.
So Sheepy was the worst dressed.
Okay.
In number 2, Casey Elon.
Okay.
In number 3, Lily. And in number 4 was HTG.
Jeez.
And 5 was Riley Luck. Not that she really deserved to be there. She actually called in to yell at you and was like, I was honored to be on the list. Fuck you, Dave. It was very funny. She pitbulled you a little bit, but is that just heel building? Him putting Casey on there?
Oh, yeah. Because if he's going to put her on the list, then I could shove his face into the pizza there, even that much stronger and go insane. There's a personal vendetta that needs to be paid off, my friend. There's revenge. There's that.
It does feel like in light of him knowing he was about to be humiliated, he attacked other people's love interests. He attacked Casey.
It's an interesting
he attacked
decision,
Lily, which obviously Earl was still in love with.
I don't think he was thinking of Earl. I think it was just who are the ladies closest. And I hate to say it, he put Sheepy in there with the gals.
Well,
that's who hilarious. I think. It was who are the ladies closest, or at least on the periphery, or right in there in that Ron Fez circle there.
And the bit crushes. It's one of his better bits in several years. As Ron pointed out, when you instantaneously ring the newly named Slave Boy bell. which means now Fez has to read one of your poems. And I don't remember the exact first
Slave
poem.
Boy Bell. That's great.
Yeah, it was great. It would ring the bell, and it was like something. I watched the telly. My fat belly is full of jelly.
Okay.
Like that level of poem.
Not exactly Wordsworth, but
attacking his
nevertheless.
weight, though. Mainly attacking his weight and his homosexuality.
Well,
there was one poem about he farted so loud it woke Ron up. At which point,
wait, there was so were they camping? They were in sleeping bags next to each other?
No, he was on the couch. He fell asleep watching football with Ron and farted
Oh
himself
my God,
awake.
wasn't that a true story?
Yeah, but you worked it into a rhyme, at which point Ron just looked over and was like, keep me out of your gay poetry, Dave. He did not want to be a part of it. So you do that. Instantly, Ron goes, why would you turn a good thing positive or a positive thing into something negative?
It's a negative.
Yeah, Fez was riding a high and you turned it south and you go, no, it's Slave Boy Week. That's what we got to do.
Slave Boy Week. I don't care what happens. Slave Boy Week must go on, must commence. So regardless of, fantastic that the Mr. Blackwell bit went well, but he's still my slave. The week ain't over.
And
let's rock and roll.
Did you write the poems? Like, when did you write those poems?
I wrote a few minutes before the show.
Okay.
Why?
I was just curious.
What are you saying?
No,
what are you saying about my poetry skill? I said I'm not Bill Shakespeare, but I'm better than fucking Dr. Seuss.
You brought in a whole book of poetry, or as Ron referred to it,
I was the editor of
the
Arista magazine in high school, my friend. That is the poetry and prose magazine for Christian Brothers Academy, CBA in Lincroft, New Jersey. One of the most highly esteemed high schools in America. Very much like a Dead Poet Society school. I was the editor-in-chief of the poetry and prose magazine.
Thank God you weren't the star of the play.
I didn't do the acting thing.
No, that was a reference to Dead Poet Society.
Oh, that guy killed himself.
Yeah, I'm saying thank God you didn't.
I know.
Because we
then I
would have
shot
great
myself.
story.
Then I would have put that little crown of thorns on my head and shot himself.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gone out that stupidly. You would have come up with some better symbolism. Oh, look, can I be more on the nose than the sacrificial lamb of Jesus? No, you would have been better than that, Dave. As we could see from this bit.
I do want to go watch Dead Poet Society now, though.
Oh,
Classic
Captain, my
movie.
Captain. So here we are.
But yeah.
So you attack him right away.
Job to do. I got a
by.
job to do. What do you want from me? Do you think Bobby the Brain Heenan would sit there and go like, well, you know what, Hulk Hogan? Today, because, your speech about the vitamins and the prayers, it really touched me. You know what? I'm not going to be mean to you for a while. I'm not going to sick bad guy Andre the Giant on you. I'm just, you know what? Keep going, Hulkster.
You're playing your role.
I got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron recognizes that because he goes,
no, this isn't about Ron. Of course he recognizes
that was great, Dave. This entire bit's been a failure. Why would you ruin such a great moment for Fez? It's the favorite thing he's done in 2 years, and you had to make it negative right after. Why would you? Then he calls in everybody. Earl, who we know it gets under your skin, and he goes, yeah, it's a failure. Lily, who we also know it gets under your skin when she criticizes you and goes, yeah, it sucks. And then we kind of move on a little bit. And the next thing we hear about related to this is Frumpus 2, or Jimmy Norden, Nordon, on the message board has brought in pizza. And this is where my suspicion lies in the work versus shoot. If the fan brought in pizza, how did you know you were going to smash pizza in Fezzi's face? And second part of the question.
We knew he was coming in.
Was it a Two Boots pizza?
I think it was a Two Boots pizza. A, B, I'm pretty sure we knew Jimmy Norden was coming in and said, bringing food.
Okay.
A lot of people would contact us on Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Hey, can I come by the show? And a lot of people usually came in bearing gifts, honestly. And the people said, oh, yeah, I'll come in bringing food. Boom. We don't have to go out and send Earl to go get the pizza because it would take him, 78 minutes to go 2 blocks in Manhattan. So instead, Norton's going to come in there with the pizza. We'll rely on his food. Boom.
Well, let's get some pizza ourselves, and we'll be back right after this.
Penny stack chaser, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Penny stack chaser, do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
So, Two Boots closed on Mondays. or we would have been eating Two Boots Pizza for this
Oh, is that
segment.
true?
Yeah, I literally tried to stop today.
I have one of those wonderful DiGiorno's I could throw in the oven for us. It's rising crust.
Oh, God, that sounds good.
Would you
but
like it?
No,
it's
thank
exactly 20 minutes.
No.
It takes to bake.
As good as that sounds, I just don't think it would satisfy the Two Boots official, unofficial pizza of the Ron and
I
Fez
was
show
offering.
craving I have. And I got to give Archivist credit because he's the one who knew Two Boots and looked it up and
Thank you,
found
Ron
one
and
near
Fez
me.
Archivist.
I do have a question.
By the way, you really don't want, because I find the DiGiorno rising crust pizza to be almost on par with old school Pizza Hut with their deep dish kind of pizza, which I am from Jersey. I'm a mom and pop guy with the pizzerias, except 80s Pizza Hut was delicious. I'm sorry if you didn't experience it. It was.
It definitely was top of the line.
DiGiorno rising crust reminds me of that.
Is
But
my
anyway.
favorite pizza, but in light of some things I may have told you off air, I've been watching what I've been eating, trying to make
Okay, fine.
a certain weight,
Fine.
you know.
No DiGiorno rising crust for you then.
I know. God, my mouth is watering. But was Two Boots always vegan organic pizza?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I heard of Two Boots before the Ron and Fez show. So I don't know the Two Boots history. You know.
I'm saying when you guys would order from there, was it still, at that time, was it vegan organic?
No, I feel like we had plenty of regular
Okay,
Two
because
Boots pizza.
now Two Boots is like a vegan organic shop, so they may have rebranded in the time of the Ron and Fez show. That's why I was asking.
No. Two Boots was normal.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
they have changed.
Oh,
Unlike
wow.
you, Dave. Unlike you, they've changed.
Thank you.
But we hear Frumpus has the pizza. We don't have pizza.
Okay.
And you allege that it was known he might bring pizza in beforehand and that this was a common thing. And I get that.
If he didn't bring it in, we would have sent someone out for some food. But the idea of food, smashing Fez's face into food, what came up on Thursday. We said that's what we're going to do tomorrow.
And it does seem like the perfect Davey Mac response. Everybody wants you to do something positive. We're going to spin it into something negative. It just seems convenient that a fan brought pizza that you ended up.
Well, let's just go big.
I like it. I like your style.
Yeah, let's do something shocking. We can pull it off.
So you got pizza.
And
It's
by the
been
way, this wasn't all my idea of the Fez's face in the pizza. I'm thinking it was a collaborative thing. It's
That was-
possible I was,
that was
one of the
actually
people
one of the
behind it,
questions
but-
we were going to ask. Was it your idea or was it?
This one is a tricky one.
A lot-
I recall the idea coming up in the Thursday post-show meeting, which we would have every day, and they could go 1 hour or they could go 3 hours. And I feel like this 100% came up in that Thursday meeting. I don't know who.
And if Earl had to stop and take pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, then it could be 7 hours.
Yeah, if it went 3 hours, it was because Earl was sipping ginger ale slowly, even though there was no soda left in his can, because Ron would ask him about guests that he wanted, and each one was a no, or I haven't heard back. So he would get nervous. He would finish his ginger ale really quickly. The can was totally empty, and he would still be drinking it.
Oh, jeez.
And everyone would be like, there's no ginger ale in that anymore.
It is so
Put
fun.
down the can.
It's so fun to assign your current producers into the role of who would be the Earl, who would be the Dave, and who would be the Pepper.
Just drink it in an empty can. Just,
Yeah.
I guess, imagining that there was soda in it.
And then just picking an arbitrary thing to get super, dig in about some stupid arbitrary thing.
Always.
Yeah, that's
Always
Earl.
the very, very odd man.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Ebony and Ivory there. So here we are. The next time we cut to, it's been established. They reestablished. Thank you again, Frumpus, for bringing in the pizza.
Yeah.
And who's in studio talking to you and Ron? But Fred from Brooklyn.
Right.
Fred's a well-known character in both the Ron and Fez and O&A universe. and
Long-time listener, contributor, made several appearances and in studio, on the phones.
one of my favorite of his appearances was when he became Fez Watley's defender and just mafia style intimidated anybody who tried to bully Fez. As a personal note, I know Fred's a bit of a controversial character in the universe. Some people love him, some people hate him. From day one of me working in the universe at all, anytime I appeared on camera or screen or anything like that, I got a super supportive text from Fred occasionally I'd be in the booth on my phone and it would show up and he'd be like, get off your phone, you're on camera. So
yeah, there you go.
And then anytime he sees me posting that I'm doing stand-up, number one guy who jumps in. So
all right, well, that's
super
good.
supportive.
God bless you.
There to do the opposite to you. He is kind of tearing you a new one with Ron because if you'll recall,
trolling me a little.
Well, you and Casey moved and you told him you didn't need a truck. And then the day of, Pitsy showed up with a mini SUV, much like the Buick I drive. And you had to call at 7 a.m. or at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, Fred from Brooklyn, to get a truck who he had to like hose it out, get it over to you and all this stuff.
I still am confused about this controversy. He offered his truck. I wanted to spare him him giving us his fucking truck. So I said, Pitsy's got us covered, Fred. Thank you very much. Pitsy comes to the house, and his fucking truck could have fit, like 8 sneaker boxes. We weren't going to get a goddamn apartment moved out with that. At that point, I said, oh, shit. But Fred offered, I'll give him a call. Yes, it's 9 o'clock on a Sunday. When do fucking people move? They don't move on fucking 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. A. B. Someone can always say no. He could say, I'm going to church, or in his case, synagogue. I'm busy. I'm going out to Coney Island. I'm doing this. I'm sorry, Dave. I offered that on Thursday, and you said you didn't need it, so I'm busy. I would have said, okay, thanks, Fred. I just thought I'd take a shot in the dark. That's really what I was doing. Let me see. I'll take a shot in the dark. Everything was cool. I fucking gave him money. I fucking took the guys who helped us move out to dinner, paid for it, paid for the tip.
Well,
fucking did everything I could to say thank you. And then it's, he called me at 9 o'clock in the morning.
So
oh, man, now you doing a bit.
You
doing bits, man.
You did leave out one key factor, which was you didn't take them out to dinner until Ron told you to.
I was gonna do it. My wife at the time said that's what we should do, and I agreed. Hold the fucking phone. Well, here's one thing that no one can say. So we're just gonna fucking be honest right now. I'm one of the more generous people on the fucking planet. You asked Bronx Johnny and Chris Pepper Stanley how many times I took them out drinking throughout the years, and that I paid every goddamn fucking every bill and every fucking tip I paid. In addition to giving them countless Yankee tickets. When I bring this up on the air, Chris Pepper Stanley goes, oh, you always bring that up. You know why? You haven't given me Yankee tickets. It's fucking 15 years later, and I'm still waiting, bro. Yankee tickets, money, drinks, tips.
Response to a text message.
$1,000s, yeah. And I'm someone who always is generous with fucking people. I overly tip. I was a waiter for 7 years, so I overly tip. So come on. Don't make me out to be like that, Fred.
I don't even have to ask.
I'm fired up now.
I don't even have to ask them. I know how generous you are. Last year, on my birthday, you gave me a sizable donation.
Fucking the last birthday party we ever had in New York City where we all went out, I fucking had to pay for my own goddamn dinner. It was over $280. You fucking deadbeats all left. Did you see me complaining? The next week, did I go, hey, guys, can you give me a actually $50 each? No. I didn't say a goddamn word. Mr. Generosity over here. Continue.
No, as I was driving you in, you said it cost me $250 for my birthday. Rob, can you take care of that? And then you sent me a Venmo.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, Fred's in there, and he's giving you a hard time.
By the way, I love Fred now.
I love Fred, too. And
I haven't spoken to him in years.
Honestly, I think it was the exact circumstance you described, and they played it up on air to make it seem like you were ungrateful.
I think he's doing a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I still didn't get fired up at that for real, though.
Oh, well,
that's a good example of performing and knowing that maybe someone's doing a bit, but it's actually getting me heated for real.
But Ron won't let you. He's not letting you respond really to Fred.
Good, and I'm glad I responded right here on Davey Max Tales from the Satellite.
But some of that frustration may come out in a second because you take the pizza from Fez as he goes to take a bite, and you go, no. And you set it on Fred's wrist and papers, and he freaks out, and you go, oh, come on, Fred. And he goes, no, like it's all over my important papers. And you go, slaves have to eat off the floor. So you take the pizza, you put it on a plate, and you move. And this is where theater of the mind in radio plays out.
Well, but we weren't doing theater of the mind. The pizza was on the floor.
But no, I mean, the pizza was on the floor, and you have a live studio audience watching.
No theater of the mind. There's people.
But you
watching.
also have to make it sound.
Yeah, but that's not theater
because
of the
you've
mind.
got
That's simply being a good broadcaster, play by play.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry. Theater of the mind was the wrong phrase. What I meant
Theater
was
of the mind is
you're
when
doing
you
a
totally
great job
bullshit,
of making it seem real, both visually for the 20 people watching and audio wise. You have to sell it so that the people, because you got much more people watching from home. You don't have video at this point, so nobody's going to be recording it. I know. You have to make it sound real. More importantly,
if we did, we'd win every goddamn Oscar in the book if we had cell phones back then.
So Fez is over there about to eat the pizza, and Ron and Fred are talking about how you set the pizza and we're disrespectful and don't have any, and then we just hear a yelp from Fez.
A yelp?
A yelp.
What happened?
He goes, Jesus Christ, Ronnie. And Ron goes, I'm trying to do a radio show. What's going on over there? And then Fez says, he smashed my fucking face in the pizza. And you had said you had to plan this accordingly. So can you break down kind of how you worked it to make it look real for the audience?
Oh, yeah. I shoved his fucking face into the pizza very aggressively.
It was like an old school with a razor.
What are you going to do?
Okay.
No. I mean, there are certain things where you give someone a chair shot in wrestling. You could either give them a shitty chair shot, and then everyone says that was lame, or you do it for real. There was no way to fake this. I had to take Fez's head and smash it into the pizza. But again, we both knew that was going to happen. We were in on it. We were both performing.
Okay, so that does take some of the steam out of my shoot argument, because he cuts his lip real bad. But visually in the room, so you're in the studio.
I just did wrestling this past Saturday. I fucking have an awful, nasty bruise on my shoulder. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, I
went to the hospital twice on Ron and Fez bits.
Okay.
It happens is what I'm saying.
Well,
Injuries happen.
Let me ask you this. So you've got a studio. You've got the audience looking through windows sitting on the bleachers.
Yeah.
Where did the pizza smash actually occur?
It occurred right next to the table. There's a lot of room.
So it's in the studio.
It's in the studio, I believe. In my mind's eye, it's in the studio. And it was right there, and I shoved his face in that fucking thing.
So the audience that's watching
happy.
Is 100% able to see it in their sight line.
100% able to see it.
Okay, so I didn't know if they were able to also see it, or if
that was... Yeah, you could see anything from the bleachers, whether they were in the studio or out the studio. You could see everything.
Makes sense. So you smashed...
It was gigantic glass walls. So you could see the entire
studio. Makes sense. So that you smash the face. Fez reacts. Fred goes, I can't believe he did that. And you go, yeah, it's Slave Boy week. And then you get in his face and go, what are you going to do? Cry, Stent Boy?
Oh, God.
Which
awful.
Is just...
horrible. It's a horrible thing to say, but I'm going for a heel vibe. No regrets.
This... Stent line is what causes Fez to go, you know what, man, screw it. I'm out of here. You knew I was trying to come back and have a good 2008. I was trying to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I proved your bet. I wasn't going to welch. I did all the Slave Boy stuff. I wore the collar. I was eating off the ground. I said, yes, master.
Yes.
And even the stent stuff today, you're doing stuff that you know hurts me. Screw you, man. Yeah. I'm out of here. And then he runs off.
Yes. That's how we got him out of the studio. For the audience, and I think he went either downstairs, because you could go downstairs for a little while in the stairwell to another bathroom, or he just went to the stairwell or something, or he might have went to the bathroom stall.
No, he went down the stairs like you initially said, because somebody chased him. Heavy Brooklyn accent. It might have been what's the guy's name? Mafia Life Chris.
Mafia Life Chris.
I believe chased him.
There's so much dancing. Come on, Fez, come back. We love you. Don't worry about the dancing, Fez.
I may have. I'm pretty sure it was him, but he chased them and tried to catch him, and Fez is gone. Nobody can find Fez.
Yeah, because we had to end the bit in a convincing way, which was get Fez steamed, get him out of there, and then, hey guys, we're sorry you came to this really fucking weird episode, but thanks for coming.
Well, you still got an hour of radio to be on air for. So you're obviously sitting there with Fred, who just saw the thing. You're instantaneously apologetic. You're like, I'm so sorry. I think Slave Boy Week went to my head. I think I thought I was really the master. And then
I thought it was really a slave owner of this at the time, whatever it was, 45-year-old Florida gentleman.
That was kind of your justification.
Okay.
And so the first caller that Ron takes after Fez runs off.
And I want people to, they still think it's a work. I thought I was a legitimate slave owner of a middle-aged Southern man.
I mean, I'm your producer, so I could see that being a shoot.
Okay. Fine.
You sometimes do get a little demanding.
I'm just, you know, I'm amazed that the people who literally argue with no, they're bullshitting. And they have these crazy conspiracy theories about why I'm lying. It was a work and it was performed.
When you said you actually smashed his face into the pizza,
I shoved his face right into the
part
fucking
of it
pizza
for me, because part of it was the yelp he gives out. It's authentic.
I took his face and went like that.
And so it's a real yelp. That's what, like...
There's no other way to do it with a live audience.
No. And that's part of why I was having such a hard time believing it was a shoot, because that yelp in particular, like if that was acting, it's Oscar worthy. But it was actually him getting injured. So that makes a little more sense, which is just, again... And the long line
he might have been performing. I'm not going to speak for Fez. That yelp could have been him performing.
It absolutely.
You know, I'm sure he sold it well. I mean, I'm sure he sold it great too.
Oh, absolutely. But part of the Ron and Fez long line of tradition of like great people in that, you, Ron, and Fez. That's who I would put in that category.
Thank you.
Maybe Billy Staples, but would be willing to put their body on the line like that and be like, actually hurt me so the noise I make sells it on radio.
Oh, no one.
And that's you and Fez and Dave, and Ron.
Yeah, almost none of the producers on that entire channel. That was my point.
Yeah.
It was because they would think of themselves before anything else, but not Fez and I. And they would think of either their safety or their reputations. They were more worried about like cool points and like, I don't want people to hate me. Well, all right, but you're not going to do anything interesting. The reason why we're talking about this right now is because someone's got to be willing to be the absolute piece of shit.
Which is you, and
I dealt with it. I dealt with the death threats. I dealt with all that bullshit. But that's why we were doing Davey Max Tales from the Satellite, because I'm letting you in on the fact that if you believe it, Bobby Tamburo,
I do.
Yo ass is a mark, bro. A mark.
Well, let's speak about the other marks, because you did this live on air. So the first caller Ron goes to is still just ready to yell at you about Fred from Brooklyn and how you treated the moving thing.
Jesus
So he does that real quick.
This fucking move is haunting me still. All these years later.
So he's like, oh, Dave, you got to be an adult and take responsibility.
I swear to God, he offered.
But the caller yells at you, and then the rest of the callers who have just heard the pizza smash start piling on you. I referenced Riley Luck earlier. She calls in and goes, it sounded like Fez was back. And Ron goes, couldn't you notice, Riley, how he was out of the he was in the studio a little bit more and we didn't make reference to it and all these things. And he's really setting you up to be the bad guy. And after Riley's call, the crocodile tears start. And I don't call them crocodile tears. Ron Bennington does. Because he goes, those are crocodile tears, Dave.
What do you mean? I start crying?
You start crying. The waterworks are coming. And you say, if I'm crying, then where's this water coming from on my face? And he goes, I don't know. I'm not your principal.
I got tears out. Maybe I should have been. It should be in fucking Hollywood. Tears came out of my eyes because, again, live studio audience. I had to.
And you sold it pretty well. You answer some of the callers
pretty well.
They take a break.
They take a break.
A radio break. During the break, Ron says you and him talk. You decide you want to express some things. You keep apologizing on air, and he keeps going, Fez is not listening. Stop apologizing to him. You didn't smash my face. And you're like, if he is listening, he's like, he's not listening. We know what Fez did. He ran off. If he's not back by the end of the show, we're going to have to start a manhunt. We're all going to have to go find Fez and we'll figure this shit out. And you just keep reiterating how apologetic you are and then decide to go find Fez. So you leave the show, and that is where the show that is live for the day ends.
Really? Okay, so let me give you one fun little story. So once the audience was out, Fez came back, and we hugged, celebrated, and went out for drinks. Face. We were extremely excited. I remember this is one of the best memories of Ron and Fez career. My entire career was how happy Fez. We felt like we had won the Super Bowl because we knew we had worked people over. We knew it. We knew that the live studio audience had bought it, the phone caller. There was a lot of people who were bought it. And, you know, like I said, before this show began, you know, I never talked about this stuff for years and years and years. Never. But I see other people talking about this stuff or playing the Ron and Fez clips, and people still asking me questions all these years later. And that's the point of this show.
And by people,
you're going
me.
to get the inside dope of my era of Sirius XM, whether you like it or not, with regards to Ron and Fez, Opie and Anthony, Sam and Dave, and Davey Max Sports Program. And if you're, you know, in denial, if you don't believe what I'm saying, tough shit. It's the truth. And you know, we hugged, we high-fived, we were ecstatic. We went out to PJ Carney's afterwards and had tons and tons of drinks.
Well, that is one of my questions. Is that where Fez went when he ran off? Because nobody could find him. Like
He might have went to PJ Carney's.
Actual student.
It's possible because we celebrated.
Yeah. That makes sense.
We went out and had drinks. Me and Fez.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Before we get
it
to
might
the
have
drinks
just
real
been
quick,
me and
though.
Fez. I know Earl wasn't there. Maybe a Peppy hamburger. Chris Pez Stanley.
Before we get to that, though, after the break, a pivot kind of takes place where, like, the callers say things like, and Ron himself is like, Dave, you got to be a man. You got to step up and start being a professional. And Ron kind of implies it might have been misguided anger about the Fez versus Casey, Dave versus Fred. He was like, you wouldn't get tough with me and Fred. You got tough with Fezzy. And then he even brings up the fact, because when people are like, you should be out there looking, he's like, no, there's a mic here. Dave wants to be on mic. He's going to take Fez's job. And those are all critiques people had and potential motivations I listed going in. Was that kind of your guys' way of addressing this? Like making a mockery out of all the rumors running rampant on the message board? Or just one of the greatest,
Yeah,
if not the
he's
greatest?
just improving. He's and probably heard some of those. I guarantee you, he heard some of those things on the
I was
message
tweeting
boards,
it at him.
or either on the message boards, on the social medias, or this. I mean, social media really wasn't a thing then, so it was really much more about the message boards. Your RonFez.nets, your whackbags, FBAs, so on and so forth. There was all these like radio show message boards of that universe. And I'm sure that word got out, but I had a job to do, man. It was called being a heel and telling a story, and that's what we did, and we did a fucking great job about it.
You certainly did, because again, up until even right now, you still
don't believe.
It's almost
How
like
about I shove your face into some pizza? I'll get that DiGiorno rising crust. I'll put that in there. I'll get nice scalding hot, and that's how we'll end this episode. Or is this part one?
Honestly, I think we should just kind of push through because there's.
Oh, we're not pushing through. I'm nearly wrapping up. You forget that I've been on the air for like 35 hours?
I meant push through to make a pizza. And then we could do part 2 coming in May.
No, listen. We're still figuring this out.
Absolutely.
We haven't given a schedule. And what we decided was we're going to take our time with these episodes because sometimes these episodes might actually have to take 2 or 3 episodes. Like these story arcs are going to have to take 2 or 3 episodes. We're just fully cognizant of that.
Absolutely.
And but we haven't said that it's going to, who knows, maybe we, it will be May since we're already at the end of April. But we don't know exactly when we're going to be dropping these. But I could see that this becoming a, twice a month type of thing.
Absolutely. And just before we move on, this will obviously be a 2-parter.
This is going to be a 2-parter?
Yeah, definitely. Because we've still got the entire aftermath. Just before we move on, one last question as a teaser into the aftermath. Did you guys plan to interrupt the best of?
When was the best of on?
That evening. So you went to PJ Clark's and you came back live on air, you, Fez, and Ron, to address some of the backlash.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll let you do some thinking about that.
I don't have a ton of memory of that. Do you have any of those clips?
Yes, I do.
That
And we
can be
will-
for next episode.
That's part 2. Yeah. So my
Let's do
question
that.
is
Let's
leading
start
into the
off
tease.
with part 2 because I don't recall. A lot of this stuff, I've got a good memory, but I need it to be jogged. I'm just being
absolutely.
honest. It's 15, 16, 17 years ago.
That'll be the entirety of part 2 is the call-in. So.
Yeah. But Fez and I definitely were drinking. 100%.
Oh, and you continued to during that part. So.
Yeah, well, you have to keep it going once you decide to do it. You just, let's go back in, hit the mics, and keep it drink, and just make it a drinking show.
Let's not get too much into that part because that's the entire part 2 of this. So,
okay.
Part 1, we finished. You smashed the pizza, and you kind of finish up the show and get everybody out of there.
And so, at the end of the day, I think Slave Boy Week was a resounding success.
I mean, here we are 15 years later, still talking about it, still getting in-depth analysis. I would say it's
it's a controversial moment. It's a moment where I slammed Fez's face into pizza, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I love Fez.
And I would say,
but
more
I would do it again in a fucking heartbeat because performing is fun. And if everyone is a good guy, and everyone is the cool guy, you got no conflict and nothing is interesting.
More importantly, Fez would want you to smash his face into the pizza.
100%.
Because that's the type of team player he was. Yeah. And that's the type of team we have here at the Davey Mac Patreon.
Well, I very much enjoyed this experience. You did not electrocute me. I thought that was in the cards. Do you have any kind of gun or knife that you're going to be murdering me with?
Not that I'm going to.
We close up shop here?
Not that I'm going to admit to on air, but who knows? The night's young and is our oyster.
2 weeks. We'll do part 2.
We'll see where we're at and get this edited and everything, and we'll go from there. But I would say imagine around in 2 weeks.
Okay.
We'll do part 2.
That was very exciting.
Thank you so much.
I'm very exciting, and I think this is going to be an excellent show for, like I said, everyone has been, not everyone, but a lot of people still to this day ask me questions, especially with Ron and Fez Archivist playing those clips that he has and stuff like that. People ask a lot of questions, and we figured, you know what, let's just do the show.
Yeah.
And this way you get some of those questions answered, and you're going to have a lot of fun and some inside scoop.
You limit how many of those questions I have to ask you before every Davey Mac Sports program. You go save it for the other show, Rob.
Exactly.
So thank you so much.
The amount of Ron and Fez questions I typically had to answer from Bobby Tamburo was overwhelming.
And they were usually ridiculously obscure. Do you remember August 8th, 2009?
Yeah, I know. Yes, Robert. We started the show off with a song.
Pepper played Lean On Sheena. And Ron said, wow, what an angsty Pepper we're dealing with today. Was he actually angsty that day, Dave? On that note.
I think it's a fair, If Chris Pepper Stanley, usually angsty.
I can imagine that. On that note.
Yes.
One of the reasons I enjoy working with you so much and look at it truly as a privilege is that you carry that same energy into all the Davey Mac, Eastside Dave shows you do.
To the Davey Mac universe.
Yeah, the Davey Mac universe, whether it be the Davey Mac sports program.
#1 sports podcast of all time.
Whether it be Yaddle Chattel.
Fastest rising Star Wars podcast.
Eastside Dave and Son Wrestling Podcast.
Nationally syndicated by Beasley Media on over 80 radio stations on Beasley Media. All of their websites on WRAT.com, my FM station as well, and on my website.
To be honest, Stan kind of carries you on that one. But the other wrestling podcast you do, Roy and Dave's Wrestling on the Rat.
Those are videos.
Video podcast
but yes,
as well.
On my job on 95.9 FM, Roy and I do a wrestling match. First Friday of every month is put on their YouTube at 95.9 The Rat. You get to see Roy Harder and I call a wrestling match from IWF, and it's really, really good. It can be very entertaining at times.
Well, I think all of those shows carry the same Ron.
Let's not forget my really weird specialty show. I've only done 3 episodes, but it's on the Yaddle Channel feed, which is Davey Max Area 51.
Area 51.
That's my UFO conspiracy.
Yeah,
I do it at 3 a.m., and it's a UFO conspiracy show in the style of Art Bell.
Well, based on the number of IPAs I've seen you drink, we might be getting one of those tonight. And I try to carry that spirit on, too. Check out the How Could You Forget series and the Bobby's World over on my YouTube page. Thank you so much for tuning in to Davey Mac's Tales from the Satellite.
And keep an eye out for part 2
Coming
of
soon.
Pizzagate. Oh, wait, that's already been used.
We don't want to call it that.
Let's not call it Pizzagate. Keep your eye out for Fez 2 of
Dave versus Fez in Slave Boy Week. You like that? Better than Pizzagate.
I kind of like that.
Implies,
Pedophilia.
let's not.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Thanks.